There we
Oh,
go.
can nobody hear us?
Okay, yeah, we're back in. So, Mr. Harrison was saying that we are muted. So, thank you, Mr. Harrison, for that.
Yay,
Yeah, we're
restart.
at a little bit of a distance when it comes to
Yeah,
everything.
we can't really see anything over there, so.
Yes, hang on. Let me just make sure that we're okay. Okay, Mr. Harrison says, got you. Excellent. Okay, so we're back on. All righty. So, anyway, what I was saying, my very eloquent speech at the very beginning. No, no, what I was saying was, hun, ever since I've met you and I've known you, you've had a very amazing attitude towards work ethic. You are very much, your mindset is very much, I have a job to do. What can I do to do the best job possible? And I'm going to focus to do this right. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to finish. And those are going to be the big things that we're going to talk about today. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born and how did you find your way here to San Antonio?
Yeah, so I was born in Maryland. My mom actually wanted me to be born in the hospital that our presidents go to. So I was born there, but we actually lived in Virginia at the time. So I've lived in Lorton, Virginia, Virginia Beach, and Washington, D.C. before we came here. We lived in Seguin actually for a few months just as an interim. And then we landed here when I was 6 years old. And
Mhm.
I've been here ever since. And I love San Antonio. I very much consider myself a Texan, even though I wasn't born here.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think that we'll ever leave Texas, to
No,
be
we love
honest.
we love Texas, and we've been a lot of places. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I love
yeah.
San Antonio. So that's kind of how we got here. My dad was in the Navy growing up, and he retired here in San Antonio. And my mom is a neonatal nurse practitioner. So they both have had and have amazing careers. My dad did a lot more than just the Navy. He did his own tax business. He was a broker for a while. He's just like this all around. I don't know how to describe my dad. Um,
He's a very focused individual.
Very focused. And
Yeah.
growing up, I remember asking him one day a question, and he says, "I don't know." And I think that I think he was in a bad mood or something.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, he came back to me and he says, if you have a question and I say, I don't know, do not take that as an answer. If you want to know something and I don't know the answer, as your father, it's my responsibility to go out and find that answer for you so that you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was pretty cool. And I was pretty young at that point when he said that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to, that's part of how I've gotten to where I've gotten, where I think like, you know, don't settle for not knowing an answer. You should find the answer and find the right answer at all times.
Yeah, and I love that. And you and I know very well it's something that I've talked to you about, and I've talked to your dad about, but we talk a lot about decision making and what the best way to go about solutions are because he's very good about that. He always thinks it very through. Tell me, what was your dad your primary influence when it came to your work ethic? What was your primary influence when it came down to it?
You know, you can't pin it on one person for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super fortunate where both my parents are rock stars. Like
Mm-hmm.
seriously. My dad was in the Navy, and I think I only really remember, at least I don't know if he did more than one, but he did one tour while I was young, which is 6 months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I living here in San Antonio, he owned and franchised a couple of Jackson Hewitts. Back when I was pretty young, we went there after school, and that's where I did my homework and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he built that, and eventually he sold those, and that's how they were able to send us to private school. That money is how we got to be able to have that um, opportunity, because that's a huge opportunity for kids. And he's just my whole life he's been this huge business person, huge business influence, and I'm a very business oriented person, and so that definitely comes from my father.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother, on the other hand, she works with the premature babies, the itty bitties.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, it was never you come home and you're done and you shut off. And some people, that's what they do, and that's how they operate. But I saw my mom home, and she was still working. She took work calls.
Mm-hmm.
They're important. They can literally be that important for her. I see her working when technically she's not supposed to be, and it's the mindset of have to get the job done.
Mhm.
You are hired to do a job, and if you're an essential person, if you are this person who is high up enough or important enough in that organization, you need to do that job, even if it means working a little bit outside of business hours.
Mhm.
And so both of them, for different reasons, really help shape how I am.
Mhm. Yeah, and talk a little bit about your mom, because your mom started from literally nothing. So why don't you talk about that? Yeah.
Well, both of them really did.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Your dad too. Yeah.
My mom was born in Panama, and y'all might see our cat in a second. So she's wandering up here.
Cameo. Come on.
My mom was born in Panama, and she grew up there for the first 10 years of her life. And then she moved here to the States with her twin sister and my grandmother and her stepfather. That's our cat. Come here, Sophia.
Come here, Sophia. Come on.
Come on.
She'll come when she
Okay,
feels like
she'll
it.
come when she wants, and y'all can see her.
Yes.
So they moved here when she was 10. My mom didn't speak any English, and she just had to go to public school and figure it out. She told me she got really good at math because in English and Spanish, it's the exact same thing. And so, living in Panama, her mother lived in the city and worked in the city during the weekend, and she would come home to a little town called David on the weekends or whenever she could, because that's just where work was. So my mom lived with her grandmother, and they were, literally out in the backyard chasing chickens for food. Right? They had chickens, and they were told, don't name the chicken because that's your dinner, and if you don't get the chicken, there's something to eat. So she came here. They didn't have a lot. My mom worked for everything that she had. She met my dad when she was in high school. There's a 5-year age difference there. And they got married when my mom was 19. And it just, back then, that's when you got married. You got married younger, typically. My dad, on the other hand, he was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. So lots of fun stories that he refuses to tell me. But, he's told me things where it doesn't matter who you are. It didn't matter, you could just get stopped. He could be pulled over, or he could be walking and a police officer would stop him and say, where are you going? What are you doing? And that's just how he was taught to grow up. But he was always taught, be very respectful. You need to respect these people because they're here to do their job. They're here to keep you safe. And that's why my dad joined the military. He joined the Navy because he wanted to get out of Detroit, and that was his way out in his mind. And so he did that. He enlisted in the Navy. I can't remember where they wanted to send him, but they wanted to send him somewhere cold when he went to go to enlist. And he told them, I'm not doing that. I was told I was going to California. If you're not going to send me to California, I'm not doing this because I've lived in the cold enough years of my life. And they did. And then they sent him to San Diego. And that's how he ended up meeting my mom, because he had gone over to San Diego. And then they met and lived happily ever after. They're still married today. Another great influence for my marriage, our marriage, was just seeing them and how they were married young. They struggled, definitely. Didn't have a lot when they first got married. Didn't have a lot of money. My mom was still in school. And
I think one of my sorry, I was going to say, I think one of my favorite stories that they talk about is that they got rid of the car because it was easier to have. It was cheaper for the motorcycle to get your mom through nursing school.
Yes. So I would think when my mom was 23, they got pregnant with my brother, and not expected, as I think most of us aren't expected at that first point in time. And my mom is in nursing school. She's trying to finish that. Now she's pregnant and she has this newborn. And so they sold my dad's car so that they could afford for her to keep going to nursing school. And he got a motorcycle, and he just drove this little motorcycle around, rain or shine. That's all he had to do. And that's just kind of the things, growing up, when I was young, living in Virginia, I don't remember the name of the store, But my dad ended up getting another job at this furniture store out there just so that he could get the discount to purchase our furniture, our bedroom furniture, so that because it just they didn't have the money to do it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so he worked there for the amount of time that they required you to work there before you got your discount.
Mm-hmm.
Then he continued to work there until he could pay it off. And he paid it off, and then he said, okay, gave his notice, and that was that. And I had that bedroom furniture from before I was 6, because I was 6 when I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not get a new set of bedroom furniture until my parents got a brand new house. And I was, what, 20?
We were already. Were we engaged?
We were not yet engaged.
But we were dating.
I was probably.
It was close to our engagement.
27 to 28.
Yeah.
That's how long we kept that furniture, because there was no need for something new. It worked perfectly fine, and my dad worked really hard to get it for us, and it was what it was,
Yeah, but those are excellent examples of doing everything you have to do to create a good life. And like you were saying, your parents came from nothing. I mean, having to get the chickens to eat, is a pretty amazing thing.
They definitely both worked for everything they have today, and it was never easy. They were never given anything, in my opinion. They worked really hard, and they have made so much for themselves. They did so much for us. I have 2 siblings, and they helped all of us with college. They put us through private high school. They did so much for us, and that's where a lot of my influence comes from for like who I am today, and what I want for our future family, things of that sort.
Yeah, and not only that, but I've known you for a good while, but one of the things that you have in terms of your work ethic is you're very good at staying calm, very good at having that communication, and really good at taking each step and making sure each step is done right. Because the thing that you don't like is steps done incorrectly in terms of a job, in terms of you're getting paid to do a job, do it correctly. And I've seen you work that. And not only that, tell us a little bit about where you are right now in terms of your work.
So right now, I work for a company named Globalscape. We sell security software, and I'm our assistant controller. So I'm in the accounting department. I started there in 2016, and you can see her head a little bit, guys. There we
go. That's our cat. Hello, Sophia. Hello. Don't worry, I'll keep her company.
I started there in 2016 as a staff accountant. It was my first job out of college. I was excited. And I remember thinking on my first day of work, I went to lunch and I literally cried thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to hate me and they're going to fire me. And I have grown so much at that workplace. Gone through multiple promotions. Now I'm their assistant controller, which in essence, what I do in my job, we're a publicly traded company. So I assist just with our monthly financials at a bare minimum. Every month I work on an income statement, a balance sheet, getting our general ledger closed out. I work on our sales team's commissions. I do a lot of different higher level accounting for our workplace. But then I also do any filings that are required by the SEC. So these are filings like they're called a proxy, 10K, 10Q. Most people don't read them. I prepare these documents that are anywhere from 30 pages to 100 pages, and I do it knowing that maybe a handful of people are going to read it top to bottom.
Yeah.
But they're so informative, and I actually really enjoy doing it. It's a huge responsibility, especially for a person who's been with the company in reality for not that much time, and they believe in me so much, and they have given me this opportunity, and they allow me to learn so much on this job. I've learned so much here. And you kind of said it a little bit earlier, but one thing I was told growing up by my father was, when you're at work, you're at work. If you're not working when you're there, then you're stealing. To how he equated it. It's a black and white to him that if you're not doing the job that they're paying you to do, then you're stealing from them. And that's not right. And that's not ethical.
Mhm.
And being an accountant, ethics is everything. We have an entire course at college dedicated to ethics.
Yep.
Really fun class. That was my favorite course in college.
Mhm.
And you know, it's an interesting thing working with this company, being able to do what I do, and it's a good experience.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, but you're in charge of your team, which is
Yes.
you work directly under the CFO.
Yes.
And for the people that don't know what the controller is, basically.
So
Yeah,
I'm an in between.
Mhm.
I'm an assistant controller working on my CPA.
Mhm.
Ideally, once I have that, then I'll get my next promotion to controller.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the goal. That's my current path.
Mhm.
We don't have one right now, but yes. And I'm also kind of I guess they would word it kind of like a manager in training.
Mhm.
It's unofficial right now, but I oversee the rest of the team and 3 other girls on my team, and I kind of look at their work, or I try to review some stuff. I help them out.
Mhm.
I've done all of their jobs before,
Mhm.
and so I know most of what they do. Of course, don't know everything, but
Yes.
I get that experience, which is great. Managing teams are awesome.
Mhm.
It helps you see yourself in a way where I've done it wrong before. I've done it wrong plenty of times.
Mhm.
You can see where you need to be a little bit more humble. You can see where you need to take a step back and cut someone some slack.
Mhm.
And that's so important in the workplace sometimes. You can't expect everybody to be perfect.
Mhm.
You can't expect them to do it exactly the way you do it, because they're probably never going to.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that reminds me of another story about your dad. But let's stay on this one for now. But what I've seen you do is you've been in charge of helping out with the hiring process. You've been in charge with helping out with organizing your team new hires, which has been something a lot. So you've really worked as a leader with teams a whole lot. And I know that you have this mindset about work. And that's been one of the things that I think has been allowing you to get to this point in your career so quick. Would you say that's what's helped you get there so fast?
I think so. I think that I very much have this mindset: you do the job, you do it right. If you do it right the first time, then you don't have to do it again, right? I'm that person where, this past summer we went to DC, and I was at work until probably 9:30.
Yeah, you would stay very late so that you can get everything
so
done.
I could finish. Yes, I could finish my work so we could go on this trip.
Yeah.
Because, paid time off is a blessing, right? It is needed. You need time away from work, no matter what you do. But at the same point, when I choose to take time off, regardless if it's approved or not, it's my responsibility to ensure that everything that I need to have done is done. I've worked with people before who don't have that mindset, and I've seen how that can really hurt an employer. And it can really cause stress on the employees who are left behind at work trying to fumble through your job because it's not what they do, and maybe they haven't been cross-trained yet. And that's a terrible thing to do, in my opinion. And so whether it's, we're going on a vacation, even on our honeymoon, I got online and I just checked a few things on work because I'm a little too OCD. I have some issues there, but
well, it goes in line with your philosophy. If you want to get the job done, you've got to be able to do these things. And that's one of the things that you do is you want the job to be done right. And you don't want it to be cutting corners, finishing quick. You want it to be done proper. And that's what you were doing on our honeymoon. And I totally understood that during the time, because it's like, well, you told me ahead of time you had to log on to make sure everybody was okay and that the house didn't burn down. But
it's good for it's not for job. But I just think that you're not going to do everything right the first time. I surely haven't, but you learn from it. I'm still learning so much today. There are things that my CFO just last week, we're all working from home, obviously, and we had a video call, and she's trying to help me walk through something because I've time and time again not been able to grasp that concept. And so what we did is we just sat there and we said, okay, why am I not grasping this? Let's go through it one more time and let's make a game plan for the next time I'm going to do it so that I can maybe sit down with you and say, okay, this is my thought process. Does this make sense? Is this correct? If not, then help me grow, help me learn. And that's kind of what we're doing with that.
Adapting as you go. And that's something you're very good at too. You adapt pretty quick. I'm a lot slower than you in certain areas and I'm working on it myself, but it's been something that's not just been in our work, it's been in our marriage as well. You're very understanding with things, but the thing is you always want to make sure that when you're doing something, either cooking or when you're doing something like bike riding, like we have our Peloton, or the big one, budgeting. You're what do they call you, the Duchess of Accounting?
I am called the Duchess of Accounting. I have a plaque. I have two actually, one with my maiden name and one with my married name.
Yes.
This is a fact.
The Duchess of Accounting. And so let me just explain to them a little bit your process that I have seen, and then you can jump into it to talk about it. So what I have seen is whatever it may be that we want to do, if we want to do a trip, if we want to do a big purchase, if we want to get something that we've really wanted for a long time, your thing is, okay, stop. Let me do my spreadsheets. And then you jump on and you do everything. So talk a little bit about that, because that's important. That's really important.
I am a spreadsheet queen. I live in Excel. People who say accountants need to be able to like do mental math are wrong. We are all about Excel, all about calculators. I thrive in Excel. It's amazing. For every trip we have taken, there is a budget. I put in all the different scenarios and I come up with everything. We are currently building a new home right now.
Yes.
And
we had to make sure that everything was good.
I have made a spreadsheet for that to say, this is what we're thinking about spending. This is what we could spend. Where does this leave us? How much money do we have? How much do we have saved? Does this make sense? Is it logical? I probably have an issue when it comes to spreadsheets and I go a little overboard. But
well, you know what? With certain things like building a house, I'm totally fine with that because you know me, I'm very frugal. I want everything to be very well coordinated when it comes to financial, and you do that very well. And that's been a big part. That's been you leading me in a lot of ways because you've told me, this is the best way to do it. Here's this so that you don't worry, because I have a tendency to jump overboard with the worrying, and you break it all down so that we can have actual discussions over it, which is very important.
I think a part of it also has to do with just you should be knowledgeable about these things, right? So there shouldn't be surprises. Surprises can be nice, but most often than not, they're not. And so, when you put everything to paper, or in my case, a computer, there aren't really going to be surprises. Or you always should give yourself a cushion. You should always overestimate versus underestimate, and therefore everything's okay if that's what ends up happening. And if not, you have more money and everybody's happy. Everybody's always happy with more money.
Yeah, and so that's a real area where you shine in that way, the preparation, and not only that, but the communication, and you use that with your team, and you use that with our marriage as well. And all of that really culminates for that one big goal: doing the job right, doing the steps correctly. And it's really been something. And as we've been married, it's been a very good thing to observe for me, because there's things that I need to improve in with that. So it's been very helpful.
You're perfect.
Oh, I'm perfect. Thank you. The only person that's perfect in this room is that cat. So, but anyway, you're perfect. So, but I understand how important that is. And that's why I think it's very important for the students to hear about that, because it's not only important when it comes to work, it's important when it comes to marriage too.
It is. I think that
because marriage is work.
Marriage is work.
Everybody will tell you
marriage is work, and they're right.
And we're youngins, so we're in that. We're right before it gets really hard. We're youngins, but that's okay.
Yeah, just as like an example, right? When I'm at work and I'm working with one of my teammates and I see something that's not done right, a big thing that I like to do is and he hates this actually. Fun fact, he hates this. I don't like to just tell you what you did wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah, because I need that. I like people to let me know.
Because to me, if somebody just tells me this is why this is all wrong, okay, that's great and dandy, but it doesn't always register to people. And to me, if I sit here and I say, okay, so this is wrong, let's write out how we would fix it. Why is it wrong? And what's the right answer? And trying to get them to come up with the answer. We have a rule at my work. If you are trying to figure something out and you can't do that in about 15 minutes or so, then come ask the question. But don't just come to us, come to me or come to our CFO and ask us a question on something that you haven't even attempted to research or attempted to find out yourself. Because if you're just going to go to somebody and ask them to explain something to you without even trying, then that's the basis. You're not really trying. And you're not going to learn as well. So our big thing at work is always try to find that answer yourself. Even today, I sent off an email to my CFO, and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to respond to one of our auditors. This is what I'm thinking about saying. Can you tell me if this sounds all right?" And I put the answer, and I was not 100% confident of my answer, but I wrote it out. I did research it before I sent it to her, and she emails me back and says, "Yes, that's perfect." I said, "Okay," sent it off. But it wasn't just, "Can you answer this question for me? Because I don't know it."
Yeah. And I think that you're right on that. And my philosophy is a little bit different because mine is if you don't know it, you shouldn't be worried about asking. But it's just different mindsets. It's not the same thing.
And yet, no, and I definitely don't think anyone should be worried to ask for help because everybody needs help. But just asking for help blindly doesn't help you grow as much.
And I agree with that. You have to work those brain muscles. You have to work the solution muscles. And I think that my level of confidence has gone up quite a bit because of being married. So it's been really something.
I guess I'm good for him, guys.
You're very good for me, by the way. But anyway, so you've really talked a lot about how you guide your team, and it's been a little bit since you've had your team. How long have you had your team?
We have been home for 6 weeks.
Oh, no. How long have you been with your team at work? Working with them.
This current group?
Yes, this current group.
Just about a year, actually.
Yeah.
Our current team, our last team member who came on, she joined us just about a year ago. It was a few weeks before we got married.
Oh, has it been that long since she's joined us? Oh, wow.
I think she joined about a week
joined you.
A week
sorry
or two
about
before
that.
we got married.
Yeah.
So just about a year with this current team. We're a team of all women. It's the first time I've ever worked with an all-woman team, and we work really well together. Not to say that when we had other teams with men, it was still good, but I think we're a little bit more open and
it's more it's more the chemistry is there, basically, that it works really well. And that's good. Yeah, so it's been really fun. And not only that, but you've had a couple of jobs, and you also had to really work extra hard in college because you had a health issue that happened, and then what you did was you worked extra hard to compensate for that afterward, and you had to have a certain grade point average to pass, right? So why don't you talk about that part of college, the grade point average and working at the same time?
So my college journey is long. I graduated high school and I went off to college like everybody else. I actually started at Texas Tech, and I got there and got into the college life. I joined a sorority. I made a ton of wonderful friends, but I was really tired of that life very quickly. And I wasn't enjoying my classes. I didn't see this end goal at the time back then. What I really, really wanted to do was be a wedding planner. That was all I could think of. And going to business school, thought like it was a good idea to me, because if you're going to own your own company, you should understand the business side. And so that was part of why I went off and did college. But my second semester, I called my dad. He was in Vegas on a conference, And I said, Daddy, can I come home? And he said, he couldn't really hear me. And he said, what? And I said, can I come home this weekend? I really need to see y'all. And he said, okay. He said, book a flight, come home. So I went home and I told my parents I just wasn't happy. I said I just was not happy up there, and I wanted to come home. And I didn't really know 100% what I needed to do or what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to do something different. I knew that at that point in my life I wanted to do weddings. So they said, okay, if you really want to come home, you can come home, but you have, I think he gave me a month. So you have a month to get a job. If you don't get a job within a month, you need to find somewhere else to live, because you're not just going to live here and do nothing. I said, okay. We made the deal. So I came home and did my resume, and I just walked into any and every person who had to do with weddings. I had previously interned for a wedding coordinator, and I went into this bakery called the Exclusive Cake Shop. They're the best.
Best in town.
If y'all need a cake, hands down, they're the best.
Yes.
And I walked in and I got a job. And I thought, if I'm going to do this industry, if I'm going to work in this industry, I need to know the industry. I can't just come in and try to be a wedding planner and not know enough about cakes, not know enough about dresses and catering and flowers and everything. And the great part about this bakery was they did flowers. They did linens. They did a lot. They have a hall, an event hall. So it let me learn so much. My boss there, I ended up planning her wedding for her. I was, I think, 19 or 20. I was so young, and I was planning this wedding, this huge, wonderful wedding, and it came out perfectly. She had so much fun. She tells me to this day how she had the best time of her life, and she always wants to relive it. She's now one of my really great friends. And I did that path for a while. I ended up planning another wedding. I ended up getting somebody from her wedding saw me and said, I can tell that's your coordinator. I want her. And I freaked out, ran to some printer shop and had business cards printed because I wanted to look so professional. And I was so freaked out because I didn't want them to know I was just this 19-year-old, 20-year-old girl who was just starting this career. So I did that for a while. And while doing that, I thought, if I'm really going to make a business, I need to understand the books. Because if you don't understand your books and you're a business owner, it's one of the easiest ways to fail, in my opinion. It's an easy way for somebody to take advantage of you because you don't understand it.
Yeah, you won't let me get away with not doing mine.
No.
you won't let me get away with that.
It's a hard rule in our house.
That's a very hard rule, yeah.
And so I went back to college. I told my dad, I don't know if I'm going to get a degree or not, but I want to go take accounting classes. My very first accounting class, the professor said, now I went to the community college for this, and the professor said, UTSA has this great program where you can get your bachelor and your master in accounting all in 5 years, and it's a really great program. So when y'all, if you go to UTSA afterwards, you can get your master's in accounting. And I laughed, and I thought, I'm never going to be an accountant. I don't know who would ever be an accountant. And then I ended up being good at it. And it made sense. It had to make sense. Things have to balance. It's so to who I am, this line of work. It really is. And I ended up really enjoying it. So then, I still did weddings, but I was so concerned about my future, about what this would be, what a marriage would be if I was a wedding planner. And I said, I don't want that life where I'm never going to see my husband or my children on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, or they're busy,
completely booked. Yeah, and we have people in our lives that do that, and that have said specifically that's their biggest problem. Yeah, exactly.
And because when I did it, I did it full out. I wasn't wanting to be this person who, you pay me some money, but you're only getting so many hours of my time, or or anything like that. Your wedding day is so special. And I wanted to make it perfect. So I was there for the rehearsal dinner. I was there from dawn to dusk on the wedding day. And I was there the next day to help transport whatever I need to help transport back to the family house. And that's how I would have done it if that's what I kept doing.
Nonstop.
Yes.
Nonstop. And you were in school at the time,
and
too.
I was in school.
Yeah.
And so, I think I came to that conclusion that I didn't want that long term. I saw how that could pan out, even though I was nowhere near marriage at the time. But I wanted whatever I chose for my career to be my career. So I finished out college. It was like a 7-year process for my bachelor's.
Yes.
It took a long time. I ended up getting sick. I ended up needing a couple surgeries, which made it really difficult. I probably let it defeat me more than I should have, and I let it affect me more than I should have, mainly because I wouldn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I would hide it, but I was in pain, or I was this, or I was just down because I let it do that to me. And so it affected my grades. It made me have to retake a class, which was a super low point in time for me.
But you had to fight tooth and nail to get in that class, right?
That's something
different. Is that something different? Okay, sorry about that.
And so, but then I finished my bachelor's, and that was such a proud moment for me. I'm sure just same thing for my parents. They have 3 children. We all went to college. We all finished college, and not everybody does that these days. And then I started my job at GlobalScape. And I said, I'm going to do my master's. I got into the program. I wanted to do my master's. And I was a little overambitious. I was working full-time, over 40 hours a week. And I was going to grad school full-time, which for grad school, that's 3 classes, which is a lot to handle. And I was still kind of battling some health issues. And I let it get to me more. I didn't manage my time well. I just didn't. And I didn't focus enough on school. I focused more on work. I wanted to excel there. I wanted to prove myself there that I was doing well and I could keep progressing forward. And I ended up getting kicked out of my program. I got a letter saying that your GPA fell too low. And what's funny, or ironic, not funny, but ironic, is I had been having some health problems and I needed to have a surgery to help me be okay to continue with school and with work and everything. And I went to my doctor and I said, I need a surgery next week because I have to start school. I have to start my classes and I can't fall behind. I just can't. And I was 1 day post-op when I got the letter saying that I had been dismissed and that I could reapply to come in the next semester. And I crumbled and I thought my world was over and I was so incredibly disappointed in myself. I thought I was a failure for that. I lied to everybody about it. I thought it was something that should never be shared. And I don't even think I told my boss at that time. She knows now, but she did not know back then. And I just told them that I was taking some time because I had my surgery or whatever. I made up something. And then I worked my butt off. And I got back into the program that next semester in the summer. And I did my classes. And I finished it. And I finished it that fall. And, it was such a life lesson because for me, who's this person where I am this person, if you do it right, you only do it once. But I did not time manage and I did not give as much effort as I gave it into my job, into my school, because I didn't see it as important because I was in a career and that's where you need to excel. That's what I thought. And so I was trying to do a master's program in 1.5 years and it ended up being a full 2-year program, which is okay because that's the normal length.
That's
And
normal.
you know, as long as you finish it, that's what matters most. And it's if you fail and if you fall, that's okay. And sure, some people may make you feel bad for that, because there are always people who will tell you, oh, well, that was stupid, that was dumb of you. And some of it was, you know, me being not smart about what I was doing. But what mattered more is that I didn't let it truly defeat me, and I didn't let it define what was going to happen thereafter.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only that though, but I mean, getting readmitted into the program, you had to pass with an A, right? You couldn't go below an A, I think, or was it an A minus? So you couldn't go below a certain point, right?
I don't remember, to be honest.
I do, because it was
it was very stressful.
It was very, very stressful on you, because at the time we were dating, you know, and
I didn't tell him right away. I was ashamed. I was so ashamed.
No,
and I wouldn't tell him. And then I think I sat him down one night, like the world was falling.
And I think all I said was, "Oh, okay, you know, that's fine, and you know, do your thing." But do you remember what I told you when you graduated, when you were done? Do you remember what I said? One of the rarest things I've ever said to anybody, honey. You did it. You can go buy yourself whatever you want.
You did say that.
I did say that.
And you know what? I actually have not gotten a graduation present.
That is not true. You got your cross. Remember, you told me.
I returned that cross.
Oh, wait a minute. What about the little one?
That's a gift.
From who?
Natalie.
That's a gift from Natalie? Oh, okay. Oh, well, looks like I'm going to have to put up or shut up. All right. Well, you heard it here. So, anyway, but you did do that, and you worked through that every step of the way, and you had setbacks. And at the time, it was really, like you said, crumbling. Your world crumbled, but you were able to work through it because you wanted this and you wanted to keep going with it. And that was really, really important. And so it's a very important thing to have that kind of mindset, because even now it seems like a lot of people are having very similar issues with what's going on outside at this moment. And it's important to still keep working and not let yourself crumble completely, because if you let yourself crumble completely, you won't find yourself in a good place later on, a better place. And so I think you're a wonderful example for that. And you know, so it's been a very important journey for you to really work, and you've had your inspirations, you've had your jobs, and you've had your schooling, and now we're at a very good place together, which is very, very nice. So it's been something really, really good. And you know, hun, I'm really glad to have you here, and I love you very much, and I'm glad that you got a chance to sit down and really just talk about your experiences. And this is one of the main reasons why I not only love you, but I respect you with everything I have. And it's something special that I'm very glad that we get to share to our student base and to Facebook, you know, so it should be fun. But I thought now would be a good time to open up a Q&A session, because I'm sure people have some questions for you that we have over here. Mr. Harrison already texted me saying, done, or as soon as I said about the buying you something, he says dun dun dun. So let's see what we have.
He's the one who said it, guys, not me.
I did say it. I'm a man of my word. So okay, we got some questions here. Let's see.
Okay.
Master Joe, first of all, he said something good, and maybe you can answer this. Would you say, honey, that your work ethic is the military way?
No, because I don't make my bed every day.
I do that, because that is one of my things that I love to do.
I probably am not as regimented as they are, but I'm very much do it once, do it right. And that probably is a military way, because that very much comes from my father.
Yes. Mr. Harrison says Sophia is the only reason why I came.
Give it up for Sophia, guys. She's the star of the show.
How can you deny Sophia? Good job. Oh, we have to give her to my mom for a little while. I'm really upset. Okay. But that's okay. My mom will take care of her. So let's see. If you don't know the answer, does not mean that it is my answer. This is another military phase that all branches of the service use, which is a great leadership trait service members have or are taught during the tour. Let's see. So that's true. If you don't know the answer, it's
okay.
it's okay to not know the answer, and
It's
I think that's
100%
wonderful.
okay to not know the answer. It's okay to raise your hand and ask why and help me understand. I do it all the time.
And then the title that I have for you is the planner. In the role of leadership, life, responsibilities, and goals, plan and plans must be established first. What are your thoughts on that?
Planning.
Planning.
If you're able to be a good planner, you can probably get through just about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I maybe sometimes can over plan or you know, almost in a negative way as well, where I think of worst case scenarios. I'm very much of a worst case scenario person because I want to be prepared. And that's okay, but I think it's also good to try to always, keep more positive with that. That's something I could do more of and recommend more to other people. But planning is so important to learn. It's a great asset for people to have, because if you can plan well, then you can lead well. You can, if you can make a really great plan, then that in itself makes you a great leader, because you're the one telling other people what to do and what's the best path to take.
That's good. And also for the people watching on Facebook, if you guys want to ask a question, you can do it in the comment section below the Facebook Live. But I think you're right on that. And that's something that I think you've really taught me since we've been married, because I've been you can see that I'm either it doesn't matter all that much, so I know I can do it, or no, we have to plan every little bit of it down to the bottom right little thing. And you've seen both of those. Which is
I have seen both of those.
Yeah. So, but you are very good at planning. Mr. Harrison added amen. Oh, you're gonna love this one, honey. Our niece says hi. We logged on late, so she just wanted to say hi.
I'm super biased, guys. We have the most adorable niece in the world.
We do. Sorry about
that. Nobody can
Others.
Beat her. She's the best.
Yeah.
And we have another niece or nephew on the way from my brother, so yes, she may have some competition coming up, but for now,
she's the one.
Nobody can beat her.
That's right. And then right over here, so one of the learns. Okay, here's one. One of the learning steps in the military, and this one's another one from Master Joe. Keep them coming, Master Joe.
Master Joe.
Yeah, by the way, Master Joe is one of our very good friends. Him and his wife actually joined us on that DC trip that we went on, which we had a ball.
It was so much fun with them.
Yeah, and so right over here, one of the learning steps in the military is that when an issue occurs or you have a question/problem, address the issue to your leader, but ensure that you have a solution or solutions also before they give you the answer. Do you think that is a good learning process?
100%. That's really what I try to teach others and do myself. It's part of the example that I gave to y'all earlier. Was I wasn't sure of what I needed to say to our company auditors, and so I presented my answer to my boss and said, "Does this sound good to you?" And she said yes. I almost always try to have some type of solution before I ask a question. It can be as simple as calling my dad and saying, "Hey, I think we need to repaint this. Should I do it this way and then do that? Or do you think there's a better way to do it?"
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then Mr. Harrison right here, he says, I resonate a lot with your mindset. A lot can be learned from reading, mentors, etc. But I feel that the deepest lessons are learned from experience. What are some of the lessons you've learned on your own from experience, either good or bad?
One of my biggest lessons that I learned in life is you're the only one who can really make yourself feel defeated. And you're the only one who can actually put yourself down that deep, right? We all mess up. We're all going to mess up. In my opinion, I think with what I did with my schooling was my own fault 100%. You know, I don't want to make excuses for that. And I learned so much from it. And I learned that you need to not be so ashamed of yourself and not put yourself in that mindset where you look down on yourself, because we do make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. We're all human. And that's what makes us grow. That's why I think I am the way I am. You know, I think that's why I try to do everything to the best that I can, because I know that I failed, and I know how it made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
But that's nobody else in my life has ever made me feel that way. It's only been me who's ever been able to put myself in that mindset. Mm-hmm. So don't do that to yourself, guys.
That's a really good way to go about it, hun. Good job. And then there's another one here is the role of responsibility is that you understand that it is your name that is going on a project, so that you give everything to make it right. Also, you know that the only one that can stop your goals is yourself. What do you think about that, hun?
100% accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think one of the best things is that when your name is on something, and when you take that ownership, because there's nowhere to turn, there's no one to blame, and nobody should ever be blaming somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves in life, when I feel like I'm at work or anywhere and somebody is, you know, pointing the finger at somebody else because they don't want to get in trouble or they don't want to take ownership. And I'm the first person who's going to raise my hand and say, I messed up. That's
Mm-hmm.
my fault. I apologize. I've learned. I'll do better. 100%. I will always raise my hand and say that was my fault. So he may disagree on that in personal life, but
well, it's not so much I disagree that you do that. It's that sometimes our perspectives are very different, and and we have to kind of pick at that to understand where each of us is wrong. Usually it's me, but the thing, because I'm a little bit more emotional in that way, I usually fire up faster than you do. But the thing is that it's not so much that you don't take responsibility. It's that I have learned that you're looking at it in a different way than I am looking at it. And sometimes I might be a little bit too fired up to really see what was really happening. And I might just feeling from emotional, because my emotions are a lot more, I react a lot more than you do. You respond more than I do, and I react more. So it's different, but it's not all the time. It's just at certain times. Yeah.
Which is interesting also that I think about it, because I'm less reactive at home than I tend to be at work.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm only reactive at work with my core team. And, you know, any one of the girls on my team will tell you that behind closed doors, I can be relatively reactive. But when it comes to being in front of a different coworker, especially in the accounting department, we have said many, many times that our customers, our clients are our coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to serve them. We're here to report revenue. We're here to pay people. We're here to calculate their commission. So many different things. And so they are all of our clients. And when I talk to them, I try my hardest always to be as tactful as I can, to be as professional as I can, and to be as calm as I can, because that's who you're serving. And whomever it is that you are serving in your job, you have to, it's not the mindset that the client's always right, because they're not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But whether they're right or wrong isn't the point. The point is that it's your job to stay calm, to take a step back, and to always just remember to keep it cool.
And that's funny that you say that, because before, I feel like when we first started dating, I felt like I was more responsive with you and then more reactive at the school. And now I think it's flipped a little bit. So I've had to learn to really try my best. And Mr. Harrison can attest to this, but I was a lot more reactive years ago. And then I really mellowed out. And it's just because times change, but over the course of time, you develop that ability to be calm under pressure. And I think you've seen me mellow out a little bit since a year ago, which a year ago was probably a little bit worse. Yeah.
We all have our areas where we're better at.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to a serious family issue, he's going to be more calm than I will be.
Oh, when it's really serious.
100%.
Yeah. When it's really, really serious. It's weird. It's so strange.
It's like where he not thrives, right? But it's where he steps up and he's like, I'm going to take care of this. Like, or we're okay. Here's the plan. This is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he's really great. And I think that these days I'm probably better at work than I am at home on being calm. If I had to compare myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
I think I'm still pretty calm at home.
You're very calm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just differences in different rates and everything. But, you know, we work hard at our marriage and we work hard at our work. And you and I both have that rule. I mean, we don't like not working. And you've seen me when I don't work for a long time. I get very, very anxious. And I see you too. You kind of start to get in that way. So we just want to work hard. And that's what we do. We feel that our responsibility is in our work and our responsibility is in how we look at it. And it's something that I'm learning, you know, because you have a better work ethic than I do. Because you look at things a little bit, you look at things a lot more black and white than I do. I find a lot more gray areas with work. And mind you, there's a need for both.
There is. And, you know, I think for both of us, what's great is that we enjoy our jobs. Mm-hmm. We enjoy those who we work with. He's right now, he's so sad because he can't see everybody's face, like face to face.
Yeah, it
bums him out so much. He misses y'all so much.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that helps us be so motivated. Mm-hmm. And when you like what you do, it's not hard to do it to the best of your ability. You know, myself, what's really great is I talk so much about how great my parents are. Mm-hmm. It's not just me who's like this. Myself, my sister, and my brother.
Yeah. All hard workers.
We're such hard workers.
Really hard workers.
You know, when you have siblings, you like to compare yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I'm the favorite child.
Yeah, the gift.
Yes, I'm naturally. And you compare yourselves. You know, your parents can sometimes they joke around and they you know chime in on that. But the consensus in my family has always been, not one of the three of us is harder working than the other. Mm-hmm. All of us give it our all. We do right by our employers. Mm-hmm. And I think it shows because, you know, I'm friends with the people who I've worked with before after I've left working with them because mm-hmm. I did right by them. And I think that's important to do. You never want to burn a bridge, ever. That's the worst thing you can do because who you know, it does matter. And having connections, having those contacts, they really do help in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we might have a question or two over here. So let me jump over and see what we have. All right. Do you believe that you became independent as you grew up? And if so, how did it help you to take charge of your life?
So I think I'm actually a relatively independent person. But for background, I come from a very Hispanic family. We are religious, and I lived at home until I got married. So in some senses, people can argue that I was not very independent because I lived at home with my parents for so long. But I think that, you know, when you take ownership of yourself and your life, and I started working, my very first job was a lifeguard at Six Flags.
Yeah.
I was, 16 years old? And I made a ton of money for a 16-year-old. I don't remember how much it was, but it felt like millions back then. And I enjoyed working for myself and not having to ask somebody for money. And so even though I lived at home, I always worked. I made my own money. I paid for my own gas. I paid for my car insurance. Mm-hmm. When I bought a new car, I bought my car. all those things. My parents 100% helped me along the way, but I would argue that I'm a pretty independent person for the fact that I try to not rely on somebody. A big part of our marriage is
interdependence.
Yes. If God forbid something were to happen to either of us, the other could pick up the slack. And we're both very fortunate and lucky that we're in these roles and we have that ability to do so.
Yeah, we're very lucky. This everything that's gone on over the past couple of weeks has just shown us more how lucky we are in terms of how we're able to work and the fact that we are still able to work. Because her and I tell her every day, I'm lucky I'm able to work, and she feels the same. So it's been that, but I think you said something really important. You take pride in what you're able to accomplish. You enjoy what you're able to accomplish. Saying things like, I had a job when I was 16. I paid for my own gas. I did these things. One of my biggest experiences that I still remember is when I had my job when I was in Marble Slab and I was 16 years old and I paid for my gas.
He talks about that all the time, guys.
I worked at an ice cream shop. That was my first real job. I worked at a Marble Slab, and that was partly the reason why I got a little bit overweight there for a little while. I was eating ice cream. They said I could have all the ice cream that nobody ate. So, but the thing is that I still remember paying for my own gas. I still remember the 20s in my wallet. I still remember paying for it. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about, and we were 16 when we were thinking that way. And that's really important.
And it's important to be able to understand the value of money and hard earned money. But it's also important to know it's not a bad thing to ask for help.
No,
it's never a bad thing to ask for help. It's never a bad thing to say, Mom or Dad, can you please help me out? I need it. And that doesn't mean that you're not independent either.
No.
It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. People need help from time to time, and that's okay too.
Well, that's that interdependence. Because remember, interdependence isn't just with your significant other. Interdependence is with all of it.
3 times in a row.
Interdependence is with family members and with everything. And we've been very fortunate where I call your dad a lot because your dad is very, very savvy about a lot of things. And so,
I am blessed to have the parents that I have.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And so it's been something, but I think that it's time that we wrapped up here. Let me see if anybody else has a question, either from our Facebook Live group or from our Zoom meet. No, I think that's it. Mr. Harrison said something about paralysis by analysis is what we call freezing from over planning or feeling under pressure. There's no failure. Only lessons and experience gained. Getting back up takes a lot. So I think that resonates with you a lot. Mr. Harrison was saying how your attitude really resonated with him in that way. Oh, Master Joe's got one more, and then you're okay. So this one, you're gonna have an iffy feeling, I think. When is our next trip? That's a great question. Master Joe, you get the red stripe for tonight.
So we were supposed to be on our way to Spain in less than a month.
Yes.
But obviously, due to current circumstances, that's not happening.
Yes. It was for our anniversary. For our
1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary.
We will probably spend it in quarantine, but that's okay.
That's all right.
As long as we're together.
I got you.
So, our next actual trip will be to Chicago to meet our niece or nephew.
That's right. In September, right?
In September, we're going to go Labor Day weekend.
No.
And we will go visit my grandmother. My grandmother and I share the same birthday. She'll be 99 when I turn 30.
Years old.
And so we'll visit her this November. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll take a trip next year. We're thinking Japan, Hong Kong, Ireland, something like that.
It just
want it to be a little bit different than the normal, maybe be a little bit different than the normal European trip, but suggestions are all welcome.
Yeah, suggestions are all welcome. Yeah, but that is what we've got planned. And it really just depends on what the world is going to be like and which country is going to be the best to go. But we really want to go somewhere nice, and we're really excited about it. We've been to our first trip was going to Scotland
So
together.
highly recommend Scotland to anybody.
If y'all can go once all of this settles, Scotland's amazing, and we actually enjoyed Scotland a little bit more than New Zealand.
We went to New Zealand and to China of all places.
Oh, that's right. We went to China
for our honeymoon.
This was a year ago, by the way. It's just, we're okay.
So all great places, and each of us have respectively visited our own. I've been to Italy and Spain and Germany, and he's been to Croatia and Greece and Italy and France
I've been to a couple places. Who's been to most countries? You or me?
You.
Oh, have I?
We're both very blessed. We both traveled.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll continue to travel in our future.
Yeah.
Keep fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think we'll find our way around the world again. But I think that's good. We got a couple more. Let's see. Master Joe, keep them coming.
I'm happy to answer.
Oh, that's right. Master Joe, and then he was going to go to Spain, and they had to cancel also.
I feel the pain.
Yes.
I really, really do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
100%. So.
Yeah, I feel the same, Master Joe. Spain was my grandmother's favorite place, my late grandmother, and I had the opportunity to go, but I would have had to redo statistics class, and so the teacher walked in on the first day and he put the fear of God in everybody. I said, I can't go to Spain. This guy is serious. And he turned out to be one of the best teachers I've ever had, but because he came in that first day and he told us what the class is going to be, and I had a wonderful opportunity, but that was my chance to go to Spain, and I decided to go and do numbers instead. Statistical inference and statistical analysis. Fun stuff.
Fun times.
But anyway, I think that's everything right now, honey. But
thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, my wonderful wife, the Simo of the school. It was a pleasure to have you on our webinar, and I think that we should do this again sometime in the future, at least so that the students know you a little bit better in the future.
So yeah, know that I exist, and I'm not just
that's right.
a fairy tale.
That's right. That's right. You're not a figment of my imagination. Or are you? Am I just talking to the wall? It could be something. But anyway, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.